Getting better coffee. I used to work in a small office area and we had a simple coffee setup for those who liked to drink coffee during the workday. There was a list, and when the current coffee supply was running low, the next person on the list would bring in a bag of coffee for the office. There were 10 or so people on the list, meaning that any one person would have to bring in coffee every other month. It had worked rather well and everyone was happy with the setup. Enter Coffee Karen, or CK. It is her turn to get coffee and she brings in a pound of coffee from some local hipster coffee bar. It was good coffee, and everyone commented on her coffee selection. Thing was, this was high-end, designer coffee and cost about $20 per pound. When that coffee runs out, the next person on the list decides that they didn't want to be outdone and gets a pound from a different bar with a similar price point. Again, good coffee and everyone comments on that person's coffee selection. This cycles through about 4 more times until it is my turn to bring in coffee. While I do enjoy a fancy cup of joe, the normal for me is just whatever is about $6 a bag at the grocery store, which is what I bring in and put by the coffee maker. About an hour later, Coffee Karen comes storming to my desk with my bag of coffee in her hand like it was half of a road kill she found on her way to work. CK. Did you bring this shit? She has the bag pinched between 2 fingers and holding it in my face. Me. Yeah. It was my turn to bring coffee. CK. We don't drink this crap anymore here. She drops it on my desk and sneers at me. You had better go someplace for good coffee or we are going to cut you off. And she walks away. Well, okay, then I will do just as you say. After work I take my coffee and go home. I pass by a coffee house on my way home from work and go in. Nice place. They had made it look like a bar but serving coffee instead of alcohol. I ordered a house coffee and was able to talk to the barista as I was the only one in the place not glued to a phone. I told him what had happened at work and what I was planning, which was to get a pound of his coffee, take it home, keep the good stuff and put the crap coffee in his bag. The barista, who turned out to be the owner of the place, laughed and said he loved the idea. So I get a pound of the house coffee. And the guy throws in a few extra empty bags. Keep going with it, man. I liked the idea. The next day, I bring in my pound of crap coffee in the bag from the coffee bar and everyone is telling me how great it is. Coffee Karen comes to me and says, "Now, isn't this better than the shit you brought yesterday? Never bring in cheap coffee again." I agree and tell her that the coffee from the bar was amazing. I just fail to mention that the coffee she was drinking was the same that she turned her Karen nose up at the day before. Later in the week I go back to the coffee bar and find the guy to tell him what happened. He loves it and said when I ran out of bags to come back and get more from him. I asked him why he was supporting my crap coffee in his packaging and he said, well, they don't know good coffee from crap coffee, right? So, they like the coffee and they may come in here and get my good coffee and decide to get more of it. Free advertising for me. It must have worked out for him because I saw a few of his coffee cups at work over the next few months. As for me, I got to wake up every morning to a nice cup of coffee. Half of a road kill, not even a whole road kill. Just half. Absolutely delightful. Worked as a baker as an upscale, pretentious restaurant. They did have little things sold to go like tarts, muffins, and brownies. The previous baker took her recipes when she quit. I had to provide my own. The owner did not like my brownies, modified from the joy of cooking. I would try other recipes and he would knock them down. After 2 months I made my original recipe again. He liked it. He didn't like it when I told him it was the original. Ah, snobs are fun in any workplace. The icing on the cake is that they actually went to the guy's store and still can't tell that what you're putting in the bag isn't the same thing. I don't know, man. In her mind, Casey has one which makes me sad. When she said, she is going to cut you off, I thought you were going to bring your own little coffee machine. Like espresso or something. And have your own coffee. While everyone was choking on their high-end coffee, you were on the other side with your George Clooney coffee. And drinking it with your pinky out, of course. I brought in a very strong espresso finely ground for my coworkers to try. They were used to a diluted mild coffee like Folgers. Problem was 2 of them had a bit of chest pain after drinking my strong brew. Decided to just drink it at home. I brought in a bag of Starbucks to work once. And my foreman said something along the lines of, "Oh, this is that fancy shit. We need to cut it with chock full o' nuts." I'm not a coffee snob. But I still died a little inside hearing that. A YouTuber did this at his convenience store with PPL asking for Swishers. They hold it and ask for a newer one. BC, this one is stale. He gives them back the same one. Snobs. Ruining everything for so long as there has been anything that a person enjoys. I've only run into one person who truly knows the difference between coffees. I've alternated my coffee with cheap beans, cheaper beans, high-end beans, flavored beans, and decaf and half-calf. I've also doubled the amount of grinds and gone back to normal. Nobody notices. My grandparents did this when we had family reunions at their house. People would insist on making coffee with their Starbucks, which was in very limited supply. Because they knew, good coffee. After the second day of 7 continuous days of coffee making, the maker was turned off at bedtime and turned on in the morning. They opened a new bag of Starbucks. I was the only one who could taste a difference. Maxwell House tastes like unsalted sunflower seed shells to me. I looked at the date on the bag to make sure it wasn't out of date. My grandfather whispered to me, "It's Maxwell House. But don't tell anyone. I'm not letting these ungrateful jerks drink all of my good coffee. They're guzzling and not enjoying." Pretty shitty employer you have if they won't buy coffee for the office. It's tax-deductible FFS. This has got to be referred to as delicious compliance. Bravo. The worst is when coffee snobs completely and totally dilute their coffee with cream and sugar. And still act like that. Reminds me of a friend that would buy expensive bottles of wine and brandy and keep the bottles when they were empty and just refill them with box wine or cheap-ass brandy when he would entertain friends. They always oohed and awed over him serving them the expensive stuff, thinking they had class. Meantime, they can't distinguish horse urine from apple juice. Don't know why he just would not cut contact with those people. They only included him because he had money and paid for everything. You should have brought in decaffeinated coffee. Wait 2 weeks and switch it to espresso. So, they like the coffee and they may come in here and get my good coffee and decide to get more of it. Free advertising for me. This guy is a genius. He found a bunch of coffee snobs who makes their decision based on price instead of actual quality. Best fuckers to charge extra for, let's say, off-menu items reserved for regulars only. Just like restaurants. How many good ones have closed while people who can't tell the difference keep a subpar place going? Maybe that's why I keep putting honey in my coffee instead of sugar. For all of you coffee people that know coffee, which won't taste burnt when brewed. Free advertising for me. This is like a 4D chess move from the owner of the coffee bar.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.